Welcome. Now, many of the biggest stars of our sport start their journey into sailing young, with boating being a family tradition, often getting afloat before they can even walk. But my guest today, Cole Brauer, did something very different. She didn't start sailing until she was in college. But you can happily say that she's more than made up for any lost time. She was recently the first American female to sail non-stop solo around the world. She has just signed on for Team Malizia for the Ocean Race's next edition, and she's still only 30 years old. It is my very great pleasure to welcome Cole here. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Now, there is so much to talk about. And of course, you have had an incredibly busy 10 years, 5 years, last 2 years. But let's just go right away to the latest thing and say congratulations, US Yachtswoman of the Year.
Yeah. It was crazy to get to this point. That had always been a dream of mine. I never thought that it was going to happen this young. And so I'm really stoked that the committee came together. And so I'm really excited.
It's quite incredible, really, that you've gone from being bored on a college campus, thinking, what am I going to do with my sunny afternoon? From there to now being at the forefront of the sport. Does it feel quite dizzying to you?
It didn't until I came back from my around the world race. So in March of 2024, I came back and I was probably in the best place of my entire life. I had just completed my dream and I was really excited and I had an amazing team. My family was super stoked, even though they had no idea what they were stoked about, but they saw me on the Today Show and then the New York Times. So they thought that was cool. And I came back.
It is cool. I mean, that is cool.
It's cool, but it's super overwhelming. And I hadn't hired a therapist. I didn't think that I needed a true support system. And I thought, okay, I can just continue doing this alone. And that was probably one of the dumbest things I ever did in my whole life. Was I didn't think I needed an accountant. I didn't think I needed a therapist. And I started to rely on people that maybe I shouldn't be relying on. It got very tricky, and it's taken between, 8 months to a year to actually get my footing and start to feel a lot more confident going into these meetings and things. I'm not a negotiator in any shape or form. So it's been tricky, but I'm finally starting to take in these things with stride, hopefully, I think.
Success in anything is tough, and success in sailing. It's a business, it's responsibility and everything. But is it still fun?
I mean, the sailing, yes. I was sailing last week in Miami, and all my friends were like, "Oh, aren't you so excited that you've come out of retirement?" Because last year I was going to, I think I did 12 or 14 speaking engagements, corporate speaking engagements. I was flying all over the world to talk and be this inspiration, but I wasn't sailing. I think I sailed 2 events last year, which normally I'm a 16 to 18 events a year person. So it was by the end of the year, I realized that it's great. I've made good money, from the corporate speaking, but what do I actually want? And the truth of the matter is over Christmas, I was like, I want to be sailing, which at that point I was already sailing, to Australia. So you can see why I grabbed onto that and decided, okay, we're going to do another 14,000 miles just so I can feel like a human. And that totally worked. It's like I'm an alcoholic, but with sailing.
Yeah.
So because I took such a big break, I was having severe withdrawals. And so I went back to the Miami scene last week and did the Etchells. And something about having my ass absolutely handed to me on a small dinghy really brings back your soul and humbles you really quickly. And it doesn't matter if you have a Rolex or the tallest trophy ever. The people who sail dinghies are still one of the top sailors, I think, because they know how to work really quick and snappy. And we try not to yell at each other. It's really good to bring to the offshore world also, now that I'm joining the crude world from my solo adventures.
But I think you've got a unique perspective there, and it's amazing to hear you talk about, go from the offshore into the dinghies and you see that difference, and it's short and it's sharp and it's intensive, but also just going from any other sport. And, you've been sporty before going into sailing, but you've got a perspective that I think a lot of people don't have. So the question that I've been really eager to ask you is, sailing is not just going on a boat. It's a lifestyle. It's a condition. It's the fashion that you wear. It's the words you use. It's everything. So as an outsider who has now come in, established themselves as an insider and is leading the field, what does sailing do that's weird? What do we do wrong? What do you go, that makes no sense that the sailing world is like this? What jumped out at you in that way?
Oh, that's so interesting. I actually, no one's really asked me that, because a lot of people don't understand the sailing world, and being in the small boat world and then also doing offshore, where offshore world is more corporate sponsorship or private entities, right? And then little boat sailing is mostly just private entities. And you have to learn, these people are billionaires, these people are millionaires. Yeah. And it actually prepares you a lot on, you go out to dinner and we're having drinks, and you know that, like, okay, that's the etiquette that I have to do. But I'm still working. I'm still on the clock. You can't say anything stupid.
Yes.
And I do all the time. And then I just hope that they've been drinking too much, and that they don't remember, but they do. And sometimes they actually respect me, because most of the time I just say whatever is on my mind, and they're used to the corporate world. And in the higher ups of the executive world, in those boardrooms, it is like the Wolf on Wall Street. They're brutal. And I think that's how I was able to move up so quickly, was because I said what was on my mind. I didn't hold back. I didn't shy away. If someone came after me for something, I went after them. And it became where the guy who I was just working for last week, he wrote to me an amazing message, and he said, "I wouldn't want to go to battle with anyone else. I'm so glad you were on the boat." And it gives me goosebumps to think about, because that's what we do, right? It's just a little race course around the buoys or whatnot. But these guys, these high-powered, men and women who come into the sailing world, they're coming in for a specific way, and they're coming in for competitiveness. They're coming in for fun. This is their recreation. This is their time off from the Wolf on Wall Street. But just because they step onto the water doesn't mean that they lose that piece of them, that piece that's, kill or be killed. And I may look really cute and adorable, but you haven't seen me on the water yet. And I think that's why I also work very good alone, because the only person that I can really be mad at for something going wrong is myself. And I'm okay with that.
Have you put a foot wrong? I've been sailing in America, and I've spent a little bit of time at some of the New York clubs and things like that, and they're really nice. But I'm sure that there's corners of them that are just as stuffy as a lot of the British yachting clubs. Have you been kicked out yet of a sailing club for getting some small piece of yachting etiquette wrong?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Which is so funny, because I'm a member of the New York Yacht Club now,
nice.
which is hilarious, because I was kicked out of the New York Yacht Club for wearing jeans. Yeah. What was that, 5 years ago? But it they didn't know who I was, and it was fine, because I lived in my van down the street. So I literally just walked back to my van that I was living at, and I was showering at the New York Yacht Club. They didn't know that I was homeless, but they do now. And still homeless. As you can see, I'm on a boat that I'm working on, so still houseless. Anyway, that was the yacht. I knew that I was going to get kicked out of that one. And they think it's funny now. I love them. They've been a big supporter, big proponent of me. I have a place to stay now when I'm in New York, which is great. So go New York Yacht Club. They're not nearly as stuffy as Southern Yacht Clubs. So in the south of the United States, those are the ones you don't want to make a mistake at, because they don't allow women as members.
Still?
Yes. Yeah. So I was kicked out of one of those. I was dating a guy who had been a member since he was 6 years old. He gave me his key card and his truck, and I had a Wasp, the foiling monohull.
Yeah.
And and we shared it. Both names were on the Wasp, and we shared it. And he was out pro racing in Miami. So I was like, oh, I'm going to take your truck. I'm going to take the trailer with the boat. And I'll go and I'll launch off the beach at this one yacht club. I won't name which one. They know which one they are. And I launched. I went sailing. I came back. And nobody said anything. Packed up everything. Didn't leave a trace. Left. Because I was a woman and I wasn't there with a member, and I was not married to a member, that means I needed to be escorted at the yacht club the entire time. So they called my boyfriend at the time and said, she can never do that again. She can't come back. And so
was this the 1800s?
Yeah, which was really, it was really sad because later on, about 6 months later, there was a vote that was coming up for all the members, which of course are all men. And it was to change the bylaws from men to people. That's all we wanted to change. One word. The vote went up. It had to be a 75-25 vote. And it ended up only being a 50-50 vote. And some of the people that voted against it were actually high school coaches from that area who coach women in the 420.
I mean, it's not just sailing, right? It's not just sport. It's all sorts of things that women have to struggle a little bit, unjustly. But that sounds quite incredible. What do you like when you get a situation like that? Are you able to go, it's your loss, I'm going to walk away? Do you butt up against it? What's your natural instinct when you come up against a bit of adversity or injustice?
Oh, God, well, it depends. It depends on how strong I'm feeling.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm good at letting it go. It depends really on the situation. So you have to be looking forward. Like, what actually do you want to get out of the situation? Like, I knew when this happened 5 years ago, I knew I was a really small fish, but I knew that what I wanted to do could potentially make me a big fish. And I was going to push for that. And I knew that I was going to use my platform to fight for these things. I just didn't know it at that point. I knew that if I was ever to be given a platform, I was going to talk about these injustices. And so there's a lot of things that I left behind. Like I was punched in the face at a yacht club after a world championship. It's okay. It's going to be in the book anyway. So anyway.
Well, hang on. Can I ask one very quick question about that? What happened? Can you give me any kind of context around that? I mean, you might not want to give me the full story, but.
It was a guy that was drunk. Was picking on my friends and me for not drinking. And mostly he called me a really bad name. I shoved him. He punched me in the face. Then I ripped all his hair out. That's pretty much how it went. Long story short. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
in answer to my question of what you do.
Yeah, I think it depends on but the best thing that actually came out of that entire situation was I ended up sitting down with the guy. He had an issue with women in the past that he had coached. He was a coach. He wasn't my coach, but he had issues with women in the past. I went and sat down with him and I had a conversation and I pretty much said, I'm going to let this all go. I'm embarrassed that I let myself lose control and rip all your hair out. I'm sure embarrassed that, we're in this situation. We don't want this leaving the sailing world. I don't want to be fired. You don't want to be fired. So what we're going to do is you're just going to leave all of us women alone. Like all of us. Like you're going to let the 7 of us pro sailors that are in this world, you're going to let us live. You're not going to talk shit about us in the parking lot. You're not going to be mean to us. You're not going to touch us. You're not going to nothing. If we hear anything, I'll come after you again. And you know what's great? That happened in 2021 or 2022. And he was at the regatta that I was at last week. We parked our boats right next to each other. No conversation, no small talk, no nothing. We just do our business. It's not a camaraderie. It's not a companionship. It's just a common respect that you leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. So
Absolutely.
I think it really depends on the situation and whether or not I have to use force with words or in other forms, but I really hope I never have to use force. I try to leave that for on the water.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is what any competitor in any situation is looking for, right? It's just a fair field and no favor. Let's just take it to the competition. But you have that capacity, right? You have that capacity, it sounds, to go, this is unfair, I'm going to really kick back. So when you're solo, when you're racing for 2.5, 3 months around the world, how are you when it's yourself that you think is being lazy or not quite delivering, or, are you as mean and as abrupt and as don't cross the red line to yourself?
I don't think I'm as mean as most people. Like I heard a story once about this Frenchman who used to stab his boat with a knife, like if the boat wasn't acting in the way. I'm very, very kind to my equipment. That I think is the one thing, is that the equipment is there to save me. And so I'm very gentle, I'm very kind, and I work more in a way of like work with what you have than against, because one, I don't weigh anything. I'm 46 kilograms. Like I'm ridiculously small. Wow. I'm as much as the sail, if not slightly less. And so I know that I can't battle out these waves and the wind and the boat. I can't do it. So I think that I'm quite kind to myself in these situations, knowing my limitations. But before I even leave the dock, I make sure that I'm fully trained, prepared, and also that the boat is designed for me. Like First Light, my boat, was originally built for a man who was 3 times my size. And I slowly changed it over about 5 years to make her much more usable. And that's probably why Elizabeth Tucker, who's my size, has now purchased the boat. Because the boat's significantly easier to use. And now anyone can sail that boat successfully without feeling like, oh, I'm ripping my back out or having to get back surgery or pulled muscles here or whatnot.
But you had some dark moments in the race. You had some times where I think if maybe a logical brain would think it's getting a bit risky, let's stop doing this. I mean, medically and all the rest of it, some moments that you look back on maybe with a bit of pride, but at the time must have been quite scary.
Yeah, I don't know if it was really scary. I think it was more like, man, like this is annoying, like really, like, oh man, if I had just been sitting in this position, or if I had like switched out the autopilot, or if I didn't get water on the rudder, there's all these things going through your mind, and I think there was like one really, really angry day, and I was angry at the world. And that was after I cracked my ribs. The autopilot had died on my primary. The primary rudder reference then died about 2 days later from water ingress. And so I was like in the rudder compartment, which is a really tiny area, with my cracked ribs. And just, it's really hard to think when you're in that Hove 2 in the Southern Ocean. And I was just, so I did a little bit of crying. And getting very angry at people. And I think not really at my team, at people who I wanted to help that just had no idea that I was in that situation. So I called like an electronics guy in France, and he was like, oh, I will get back to you later. And I was like, please no. And then he called me back like 9 hours later and was like, oh, so is there a water in this area? And I was like, I am in the Southern Ocean, dude. Like, I don't know. So there was some anger. I don't know if there was fear. It was more like anger. The thing with me is that, and I think with a lot of athletes, like high-level athletes, like we are fueled by anger. And so I didn't just like get lazy and lay down and be like, okay, well, I'm in so much pain. I can't crunch up. I can't like jump out of bed. I can't really do anything. I can barely grind on the winch. Like I have to hold my side and grind with my left arm to like unreef and reef. Like I can't lift my arm above my head. Like the anger of that whole situation and everything feeling like it's going wrong actually pulled me out of these like depths of despair and depression, and was like, it's like that anger you get where you can feel it in your spine and it like radiates up and you feel like you could lift like a car. that was actually what got me through that moment.
It's really fascinating the way that you put it in terms of an athlete being one of those people, an amateur athlete being one of those people that burns fat, and a pro athlete being one of those people that burns anger.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting sort of thought. But how does that translate to the same thing, a long journey across an ocean, but in a team?
Oh, so I think that's actually going to be the fun part. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have to be completely honest. The dream before going around the world solo was actually to do the ocean race. That had always been the dream for, I think, since I was like 21 or 22. I think I had said I wanted to do it, and everyone laughed at me, which was fair. I had done very little miles offshore. I was very new to the sailing world. I was not your typical mold of an ocean sailor, or specifically not an ocean race sailor, which I'm sure we can look at old 2008 photos and videos. Maybe I could have been a driver, but not an actual racer. And so it was always the dream. But I had a mentor who was really honest with me, and he was like, hey, like, if you want to do any dream to go around the planet, you're going to have to do it alone. You're going to have to push here. You're going to have to show that you can do it, because nobody's going to come out of the woodworks and hand you, the golden chalice of races and put it right in front of you and say, hey, little, 100-pound girl that's 5'2", like, here you go. Good luck. Nobody's going to do that. And so honestly, like, even if it's an absolute shit show out there in the Southern Ocean with 5 of us, I think I'm still going to smile every way through, because it's 10 years later and the dream is finally coming true. And it's coming through not because I paid my way or because I did anything extraneous to get the gig. It's because I've already proven that I can do it 1.5 times. So that I couldn't be more happy about. And so I think, no matter what, I'm going to smile all the way through. And I just got my schedule from Malizia, so I know which legs I'm doing. And I cannot tell you how exciting that is to already have your full schedule 3 years in advance and know, okay, this is where I'm going. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna try this food because I've never been to this location. Like this couldn't be more exciting. I have to tell you, it's an absolute dream come true.
Have you been on an IMOCA yet? Have you stepped on board one of those foiling machines?
Yes, actually, yes. My first time foiling was May of last year in New York City. With the Malizia gang, and they were like, all right, we want to show you. We want to take you. And it was flat water in the middle of the harbor. We're doing 35, 32 knots, something around that range. And I cried, to be honest. I cried out of joy. I cried out of the experience of feeling like you're in an airplane taking off. And Boris is so chill, he's just sitting there driving, and I'm like, Boris, I know you're used to this, because he was a class 40 sailor too. And so for him, I can look up to him that he knows the pain. Vintage class 40s, or really any class 40s at all, are horribly painful boats. They're not made for going around the planet, but people do, like Boris did. And so have I. And I think that's why Boris actually has put in a lot of effort to have me on the team, was because he watched me go around the planet on a class 40 and knew exactly what that boat is like and how many times it tries to wipe out because the rudders are too small, the mast is too far forward, and all the other inconsistencies of a vintage class 40. Anyway, getting to an IMOCA is like, it's such an amazing developmental class. And I'm so excited that the Ocean Race has partnered with the IMOCA fleet, because it gives me an amazing chance to actually get even more miles on these boats. I mean, I did the Duffy with Boris as just like an onboard reporter, like just as a spotter. And that was really cool, because then you actually get to do an overnighter and everything goes back all of a sudden you're flooded back with the feelings and you're watching him play with the autopilot. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm trained to do. I'm trained in these types of electronics. I'm trained in the video game system that is like these high performance boats. Like, yeah, it's, you're trying to go from, a PlayStation to a Formula One car, but it's, one could be a very nice simulator for the next, maybe. So I'm hoping to get more miles coming up.
And so what do you do now obviously your own sailing, but like you say, the team's given you a schedule already. Mm-hmm. When does you working towards that project, working together, just being as an outsider, I'm just curious to know, when are you kind of on their dime, so to speak?
May 1st of this year.
Right, okay. Team Malizia have a particular style, and obviously, you've been following the ocean race. What do you sort of make of them from an outsider looking in? They've got, they put it all out there, but they've got a particular kind of energy, a particular enjoyment, a particular kind of passion that they very much kind of slap on their chest. Is that something that that you see as well, that difference between the other teams?
Yeah, 100%. I think that there was a few team options that were on the table, especially when I finished my around the world race, and Malizia was amazing. I got on a Zoom call, I think maybe 20 days after I got finished my around the world, and they were very calm. They said, "We'd like you to come join us." And I told them I wasn't ready for anything. I really wanted to pretty much work under Boris and kind of get to know like the boat. Because for me, because I'm so small, I need to know where I fit in and how to work it. I'm a boat captain first and then a pro sailor second. So I need to be able to know where the things are, to be able to fix things and be able to sail the boat, because I don't weigh that much. And how do I lift things? And Boris and Holly, team manager Holly, were really fantastic about it. They were like, the offer is going to stand no matter what. Take as long as you want. Come to New York. Let's meet up and we'll see if you're a fit for the team also. And at the end of, in May of last year, they were like, we want you. And so they just kept on adding in events and things like that. And and then Boris and I talked almost probably every other day when he was doing the Vendée, and I was offshore also. And we were a great camaraderie team. Like, I could tell him when I was, not feeling being out in the Southern Ocean, and him also, because we actually passed each other in the Southern Ocean. Wow. I was going south and turning left, and he had just turned left and was heading north. And so we actually passed each other there. And which is such an amazing moment, because I think that we off the water, we work really well together. And then on the water, just us being like each other's confidence zones. Like, I was sending him TV shows when it was getting really, really gnarly. He was like, "Send me all your funny stuff." And I sent him all of my really dumb reality shows. I just sent him everything that I had. And I was like, "Try this one if you're feeling like this. And if you're feeling like that, try this one. And there's this cooking show that's in Korean. Like, you're going to love it." So it's a good friendship. And I have no issues. Him and Will, I think, are going to be just top-notch teammates. And I honestly wouldn't have wanted to be on any other team. Their feeling is really good.
Okay, so finally then, you can hear the passion. I mean, you can hear the passion in what you have for the sport, and it's amazing to think that the sport has got its hooks in you. Yeah, a little bit later, and also you've jumped to what I would say is probably the worst aspect of the sport, which is seasickness, illness, injury, offshore, alone, cold, tired. But when does the moment come for you to say, pump the brakes, stop a second, look around and go, wow, I've come a long way. Do you have a chance to do that, or are you putting that one off?
It's happened very, very recently. It didn't happen when I had finished my around the world race, because everything kind of flooded in. I didn't even know how to hug people. So I was like not really knowing how to do anything. And so I think, yeah, it took about a year. And I honestly think the Rolex nomination and the winning was really cool because it all started to be much more tangible for me to understand. The signing up with Malizia was actually a comfort zone for me because instead of starting my own solo campaign, which is not a comfort zone, that's throwing you out to the stratosphere and hoping for the best. Actually, joining Malizia was a nice, comforting, place for me to be because they already are established. They already have all the money. They have sponsors. They hold themselves high. That is a really nice safety zone for me to be in and try to reestablish myself as this new human that maybe I don't even know what I'm doing, but who does, honestly. So I'm figuring it out day by day. And, with the Vendée, I told everyone I really want to do the Vendée in 2028. But I think the truth of the matter is, like, I always want to do the ocean race. And if the ocean race is the last thing that I ever do, I think I would be okay with that. Like if I was to go out there and something was to go wrong or finish the race and, I don't survive, which I know that sounds morbid, but us solo sailors, we are obscenely morbid. We understand death is a thing. I think I'd be perfectly happy because everything that I've done up to now, I've been really happy with. So I'm presently really, really content with where my life is and where it's going.
With that, I think the only thing left for me to say is I look forward to seeing you on the start line. And thank you very much for being so honest.
Yeah, thank you. And so far, it looks like I will be on the starting leg. So I'm super excited.
All right, Cole. Thank you so much.
Thank you.